What's happening, savages? This is the Savage Perspective, the show that tastes like bacon, smells like whiskey, and the forehead perspiration of manly men after a long, hard day's work. My name's Immortal Coil, your future minister of whiskey mysticism, coming to you with the Savage Perspective. I hope everyone's doing good tonight. We got a really great show. Still a little young in the podcast, but that's okay. Most people are going to catch this on the replay. Go ahead and listen to it while you're swinging the hammer or erstwhile doing something that needs audio distraction. Well, it's been a pretty entertaining week as far as news stories go. One of the things I like to use this podcast for is catching up on the current events and following the stories of the fandom menace and kind of trying to provide a synthesis or some kind of uniting hypothesis after seeing so much shit. It's the tendency of the main channels to kind of jump on a news story and pump it out as soon as it gets brought up in the suggested news tabs. But us smaller channels, we have the luxury of kind of taking that stuff in. And, well, I've noticed some interesting patterns in the past week. I hope you guys are hanging on because I'm going to take you on a little ride. Now, before we get into all the serious stuff, I like to ask you guys to hold high your mug of grog or whatever it happens to be that you're imbibing. I've got some Milwaukee's Best going on for myself. Clearly not ambrosia, but working man's salary. What can you do? High ABV for a lager, as it were, an iced lager. So, salute. Take a deep drink. Okay, so to get things started, we're going to do kind of a little bit of a fluff piece, a little bit of fun, a little bit of enjoyment. Okay. Share audio and share the entire screen. All right. There we go. So, first item on the block. If you're a dork like me, you often get stuck in hypothetical conversations of who would win, who could inflict the most damage, who could actually survive the fight. I saw this the other day and I thought it was, kind of cute. We got, can Thor actually be cut by Wolverine's claws by Kevin Fellon? He cannot own a firearm in the lower 48 legally. So here we have Chris Helmsworth, made out of like microcarbon fiber, kind of whatever shit, according to the Galaxy's, the Guardians of the Galaxy's medical droid. And And then we have Wolverine, who's made of earthbound materials, whose skeleton has been coated by a fictitious metal named adamantium. And Wolverine happens to be a mutant whose healing powers not only keep him from aging, but can virtually let him take most wounds with a glancing blow, including explosions and bullets, and in one instance, a nuclear weapon. Well, Thor is a god. He's made out of different stuff than people in Midgard. But he also happens to have Mjolnir, who's fashioned out of Uru metal. Basically metal forged in the heart of a dying star. So, what's up? Can adamantium cut through Thor's skin? Well, before we even get in the article, I want to say yes. Adamantium can cut through pretty much anything except for adamantium. Unless the adamantium is heated, then it can cut through adamantium. It can't cut through vibranium, so that eliminates Captain America's shield. And this Uru metal, it can't cut through Mjolnir. But it can pierce the god's skin. Now, if we get into the body of the article, it's somewhat entertaining, but it's just kind of like, can Darth Vader beat up Superman? Can Wolverine beat up Thor? Well, it depends on how you want to focus on this. If it was a purely physical contest with no weapons, I think they'd give each other a pretty even run of their money. If we're doing Mjolnir versus claws, again, you get a pretty even run of money. But what happens in this article? Let's ask. Fans have seen Wolverine's adamantium claws, forged from what may be the strongest metal in the Marvel Universe, have been seen to slice through seemingly everything in its way. But could they tear through an actual god? Readers found out in this 2009 three-part, digital-only, Wolverine versus Thor. The story finds Wolverine waking up dazed and confused on the floor of a bar, a situation he's likely familiar with. I've seen Wolverine passed out in a bar a couple times. I've seen Wolverine repaint the walls of a bar from a lacquered wooden hue to something more crimson. Trying to gain his bearings, Logan suddenly realizes that he's surrounded by a rogues gallery of supervillains looming over him. The likes of Lady Deathstrike, Mystique, Omega Red, and Mr. Sinister are about to attack when Wolverine gets his biggest surprise yet as Sabretooth, who Wolverine had recently killed, lays a clawed hand on his shoulder. Now, right away, I want to back off and say this is the exact plot of Old Man Logan. So I don't know who wrote this comic, and the fact that it's digital only is probably suggesting that this is created in the pencils down era for Marvel. It didn't say whether or not Wolverine was bisexual or finds Thor angelic and attractive. But obviously he doesn't realize it's Thor yet, so he probably hasn't even had a chance to register on his Dichter scale. Wolverine flees to regroup, vowing to come back and kill them all. And the next panel reveals that instead of Sabretooth and company, Wolverine is actually surrounded by Thor and a group of very confused bargoers. Seems like Loki has been up to some old tricks again. Okay. And here we see a couple of glimpses of the future here. We're going to go over this. Batwoman, Ruby Rose exit, details reveal on-set tensions, blah, blah, blah. That's coming up later on. Right now we're talking Wolverine and Thor. Knowing how dangerous Wolverine can be when he goes full berserker, Thor chases after him to try to talk some reason into his ally. But Wolverine, still believing this to be Sabretooth, gets a drop on him. His claws land a crashing blow directly to Mjolnir, sending off an explosion of thunderbolts, but doing no damage to the mythical hammer. That's a good point right there. So adamantium cannot cut through Uru metal, and Uru metal will not damage adamantium. Instead, it seems to be an instance of an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. So it just explodes, and they both kind of fly on. Fly on, says Jimi Hendrix and Corrosion of Conformity. Well, now the fight is on. While Thor is easily the more powerful of the two, he finds himself incapable of matching Wolverine's speed and agility. Physically, maybe. I know that Mjolnir augments his power. He's able to fly faster than the speed of light and, concentrate all lightning on one point in a space-time. But, all right. The mutant's able to get in several swipes at the Asgardian, drawing blood, and even goes full leapfrog on him, impaling him through the back with all 6 adamantium claws. Snicked. Deciding he's had enough of this, Thor blasts Wolverine with a bolt of lightning. Now, that's actually a very effective thing. We've seen Magneto be able to control Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. I believe, similarly, Storm would be able to incapacitate him in this manner. But Thor, I would say, when it comes to lightning in particular, has a more precise control over it than Storm, who is a all-purpose weather goddess. Excuse me. Which also happens to snap him out of Loki's mind control. Thou hast pushed my patience to its very limit, Wolverine. And here's a pretty good artwork. Surprise. Whoosh. Enough. Whack. So from this panel, we get the sense that Thor didn't actually want to hurt Wolverine. He was just kind of like, all right, buddy, what's going on? Yeah, we can tussle a little bit. But you actually stab a motherfucker through the ribs, somewhere in between your spine and scapulae. It's gonna piss an Asgardian off. Let him down some power lines in the meanwhile. Swipe with Mjolnir. Psh, Logan goes flying. So while Thor is nursing some visible wounds, the pair reconcile. Back at the bar where all this started, Wolverine is convinced that this was part of one of Loki's grander diabolical schemes. But Thor downplays the idea, saying, "But truth be told, not everything hath to be about something. Sometimes a villain like Loki merely sees an opportunity and takes it." It's a very, some men just want to watch the world burn moment, according to this author. The story ends with the pair discussing their exasperating brothers over Jaeger bombs. Of course, they'd have to drink something Scandinavian. I don't really like Jaeger. I don't know. I think Jaeger kind of tastes like toothpaste. I give my girlfriend shit all the time because she thinks Jaeger is delicious candy, which should be imbibed with abandon. And if I'm hard up, I'll drink some Jaeger. If there's nothing else, I'll drink some Jaeger. Or if it's like, yeah, fuck it, I've already had a handful of shots. Yeah, I'll drink some Jaeger. I can't see Logan's go-to being Jaeger. I want to say he's a Canadian whiskey person. And then in the halls of Valhalla, they probably have shit that makes Jaeger and Milwaukee's Best tastes like throw up. You know, it goes down like water, but fucks you up like a barrel. So yeah, they're gonna sit back and drink Jaeger and be like, yeah, my brother's an asshole. Well, my brother's an asshole too. Logan's like, yeah, my brother tries to kill me every year on my birthday. And Thor goes, well, yeah, my brother banished me to Earth and then took over Asgard and pretended to be my father. So I don't know whose brother is more of the asshole. Is it Sabretooth? Is it Loki? Is it your brother? Oh, he's a dick. Okay. So could Wolverine's claws actually damage the God of Thunder? Yeah, blah blah blah. But again, this is one of those things that geeks like to debate each other about. There was a issue where it's Thor versus Colossus, and Thor ends up whipping Colossus's ass. And you know, maybe Mjolnir can't like quite crack his organic biosteel mutation, but he can send him through a ringer. And then again, if Thor summons lightning, Colossus finds himself in quite the pickle. But here's what's funny. There's an ongoing modern thread where Colossus, I'm going to pull up the picture, is running around with the stump of an arm. Okay. So he's got his Rasputin going on here, his organic steel. This is an older Colossus from what we see typically portrayed in a classic X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, where he's a very much a Dudley Do-Right, do-gooder. Scott Summers would be very proud of him. Professor X would be very proud of him. The Colossus that we're familiar with from the Deadpool films, where he just wants Deadpool for fuck's sake to just make the right decision and do something good. But Deadpool can't do that because he thinks good is silly. And he can't keep his hands off of Colossus's junk. This right here. And the beefcakes back there, both of them. Most likely much to the chagrin of Shadowcat. But apparently the Deadpool franchise couldn't afford her, so she does not weigh in on that particular issue. But we focus right here on his left arm, which we see has been somehow amputated below the elbow. I'll give you 3 guesses on each hand who is responsible for that. That's why it's Wolverine. What we find out from the aftermath of this particular encounter is that adamantium can slice through Colossus's mutant organic biosteel. So Colossus can stop tanks. He can thrash on Juggernaut. He can even go toe-to-toe for a couple rounds with Thor. But adamantium will kill a bitch. All right, so checking back on the chat, we do have one viewer. I'd like to welcome you, my one viewer. Go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know what you're talking about, thinking of, and dreaming of in your Quiet imagination. We're going to take a moment and go ahead and toast once again. Raise your mugs high, take a big swig, and hail to you and yours. All right, moving on to our second topic. Now, this is kind of a dual topic here because we have Robert Pattinson, Twilight Batman, and then we have right here Ruby Rose, Batwoman. It was a big week for Batman and Batwoman news. We had a lot of, strong opinions and emotions flared, and a lot of drama, discussion, and general back and forth over these two issues. So we're going to start with the one that I was hit with first. It's Batman fans, and that's in quotes, are angry that Pattinson's not working out and why they're wrong, by Kaylee Donaldson. So here we have Batman in that red fucking trailer that everybody saw. And then we have this, I don't know, Robert Pattinson going, shit, why did Bella dump me? As he claws his head, trying to figure his life out. Well, we don't know. Kaylee Donaldson surmises, some people seem genuinely mad at the prospect of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne and the Batman being anything less than the massively muscled with anger that the actor isn't constantly working out for the role. All right, Kaylee, right away, your opening sentence doesn't make sense to me. Some people seem genuinely mad at the prospect of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne and the Batman being anything less than massively muscled with anger that the actor isn't constantly working out for the role. Okay. This is what I would like to call a run-on sentence. I get your ideas in this, but you squeeze too much into that opening statement. So yes, some people are mad. Robert Pattinson isn't working out for the role, and Batman has traditionally been painted as a very tall, very muscular, naturally sort of big dude. He shops at the big and tall store. Alfred has to make his clothes for him. The Bat suit is a custom suit. So in an interview with the British edition of GQ, Pattinson revealed that the weird and wonderful ways he's been coping with lockdown over the past few weeks. The actor is currently stationed in London, where he was shooting The Batman with director Matt Reeves until the Voldemort pandemic forced Warner Brothers to close production indefinitely. It's a truly bonkers interview. And Bonkers was a candy in the 80s, if you guys don't know, which includes an extended bit where Pattinson tries to cook his new take on pasta using a microwave and a giant novelty lighter. I'm sure it's very funny. That part is what caught most of the internet's attention due to how strange it was, but it's another revelation that has some Batman fans up in arms. Greetings, Tommy. How you doing, buddy? Just reading some Batman news. Pattinson's reveals that while Warner Brothers hired him a personal trainer and provided the actor with gym equipment so he can keep up his fitness for the role of Bruce Wayne, in reality, he has, quote, barely done anything. for him, he said that his choice was about not getting fully ripped for the role because if you're working out all the time, you're part of the problem. You set a precedent. No one was doing this in the 70s. Even James Dean. He wasn't exactly ripped. I don't know. I'm going to try to do this. James Dean Shirtless. Hopefully this doesn't come back terrible. Okay, so James Dean Shirtless. Okay. The first one's probably the best one. Let's view image. Please view image. Okay. So James Dean has what I'd call a endomorphic body. Oh shit. Okay. Looks like I got somebody knocking on my door here.
Hail, my friend.
How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, my man. Do you want to know a little trick that'll make so that you can get a notification when people are backstage without you having to look at the screen?
That would be great. What's up, man?
So if you go to your settings, there should be something for like guest settings or sound settings, and there you should be able to set it to where you can hear like a little pop, like a little boop, whenever one of us come backstage, and then you can hear it in your headphones whenever we pop in.
That's cool, man. Perhaps after the broadcast, you can drill me on that, so we're not taking up all these.
No problem.
Hey, yeah.
So I'd say you're talking about the Snyder cut and Pattinson being a lazy ass, not working out to get in shape for a role. Looks like.
Well, yeah. So he was saying he was using James Dean as his justification. Right here, James Dean in the 70s. And we look at James Dean, so he has a endomorphic kind of body type, but you could still see like he has pecs, he has abs.
He's at least fit. He's maybe not like swole, but he's fit.
Yeah, you could see a serratus anterior, which is a very hard muscle to develop. And actually, before modern comics, I don't know how many people. Now, you look at his arms, yeah, he has some shoulders, and his biceps aren't quite as developed in this picture as you would typically think. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't call him not muscular. Would you? What do you think, man?
I don't know. I'd just say he's athletic, definitely, because he's also kind of skinny. So like I wouldn't say that all that's super like would translate to strength, but definitely fit, can definitely be agile. I would think. Can we see a pic of current Patterson so we can compare?
Sure.
Because I actually don't know what he looks like right now. I haven't like actually seen much of this stuff, so I don't know if he's fat now or if he got in shape a while back and
he's terrible.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Ugh.
So here's Pattinson.
Too many shirtless photos, but
yeah, I know. Well, and this is the era where people are doing like makeup tutorials to make like the happy trail and all this shit.
Right.
Like they do the same thing like you see people do for stage makeup where everything's highlighted except for the regions that they want to push back.
Right.
So, you know, you can see him. He kind of has a swimmer's body. I don't know. Yeah. So I would say he's probably similar in physique to James Dean, which he cited as his source. But is this really like how you picture Batman?
Well, you see, I actually don't care what his end result is. I more care. I'd like him to at least put some type of effort into the role. Is kind of the point. Like, you imagine that Bruce Wayne would work out or do some type of exercises. So that means you kind of have to for a while to kind of get into the point to where it looks like that's what you do on a daily basis. Like, He doesn't have to be super buff because I feel like when you put on the suit, that's where a lot of the bulkiness kind of comes from. Like not every Batman is as bulky as the suit. I would imagine that it's like there's some fluff a little bit. But I actually don't know. I'm not an expert on comics or anything. But like I would imagine Bruce Wayne isn't always super swole, but he is when he's Batman. When he puts on the costume, I would think.
And you can look at past Batman. Like I don't think Michael Keaton necessarily was swole, nor do I think that uh what's his
Clooney,
name?
I'd say even Clooney. A lot of them
Yeah.
actually didn't look like they were that strong. They just looked like. See, personally, I didn't really care for him as
Or
Batman.
Christian Bale.
But,
Like so those weren't huge big guys like in the sense of animated Batman.
right, but they seemed athletic enough for the part, I suppose. As far as I mean, the Batman and Robin one, is that even fair to use as an example for anything?
Well, I
'Cause-
wouldn't say so, but you
no.
could kind of see where these journalists, which I want to hold in air quotes, would sort of say. But okay, the Batman is supposed to be more psychological than anything else. It's supposed to strike fear in the hearts of criminals.
Right, he's supposed to be a shadow that, like, criminals fear. They're like, oh, like he's not even a man. Like, what is this thing that's gonna get? He could get me. I could rob this bank, but he might get me. And fuck them.
Right.
So I don't know. We got to run before we shit our pants as soon as we see him. 'Cause our guns don't do shit. We've seen like teams of people get knocked down with guns by him. So is he even a person? Is he an alien? What the hell is this thing? Yeah.
Yeah. He's your fear incarnate.
Right.
So back to the rag at hand. Pattinson's not wrong either, but for some, this comment was considered an egregious error on the sign of disrespect towards the role of Batman.
See,
YouTuber. Wait,
go ahead.
Here's our favorite name, John Campea.
Oh yeah, Campster.
He seemed particularly aggrieved that Pattinson isn't working out for the Batman, as in his opinion, he wasn't taking his duties as Bruce Wayne seriously, and that he seemed above it all. Okay. Campea just weighed in. What do you think, Rook?
You see, my opinion on it is actually I personally don't know about the Batman character more than just like a casual fan would. So to me, it's more of the acting side. Like to me, he's not disrespecting Bruce Wayne or Batman by not working out right now, because by his logic, that kind of makes some type of sense. But it's like, as an actor in general, like think of Gerard Butler playing in 300,
Leonidas.
King Leonidas. I do not see Gerard Butler as a buff dude, a muscular guy, anything, but he worked his ass off to look like one. And, that's for nobody. I don't think anybody was thinking about the integrity of Leonidas, but, the dedication the actor took to try to look that way.
Well, the sheer
amazing.
visuals, too. You can
Chris
do
Hemsworth,
a lot with
Chris Pratt. They put effort into their role, whether or not they're supposed to be super buff or muscular. At least what I would say from Pattinson is to at least look like you do push-ups and sit-ups and do something. Like, you don't have to go to a gym, but can you do some jumping jacks, do some type of activities in your own house to sort of get a little bit in shape so that you look like you can at least outrun somebody that's running from you, or at least put on some type of, if anything, put on some type of weight in the right areas if you can. I assume all actors have like a coach that can help you with that, so that you can look like you can throw your weight around and knock down a criminal. That's what I'd say.
Well, so we got this weird notice from Tommy. Mary Mayhem, who is a great mentor to up and coming channels. She just had her stream taken down because she was talking about that Dearkin Shim thing.
Oh yes, the transgendered Twitch safety council person.
Yeah, so we're gonna extend our sympathies to her. We're gonna try to avoid talking about this individual. But geez, it's kind of strange, man. You would think that First Amendment protection and this and that would.
Oh no, I agree with you, and I think this actually wouldn't be getting away with. But right now with the sickness and everything,
Voldemort,
with the sickness, the C virus, I call it the C virus. They like the YouTube employees that would be over. I don't know if they individually do anything, but the automatic bots they have right now are awful. And I don't know if it's the bots specifically that do this, or if they do have people now that can just kind of target topics and go, "Oh, they're talking about this. Let's take a look at them." It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but it does seem ridiculous. And she was just about to end her stream too. I think she starts at like 5:30 usually my time. It's almost 7 my time. So
sure. Well, let's go ahead and like, share, and subscribe her channel. Maybe we can't get the stream back, as it were, but I think we can at least show her some support.
Indeed.
So, all right. Well, back to this Batman thing. John Campea. Man, this guy is everywhere, and I have heard nothing but divisiveness from him.
Yeah, he's kind of like a cocky asshole that thinks he's the smartest one in the room.
Yeah, and I've heard various like shield type adjectives attached to his brand.
He's got those sponsors.
But yeah, he has more subs than I do, and probably more viewers than I do. So yeah. So
I don't know. Maybe the viewers. I don't know about that. I think it's declining.
I guess so. Well, most criticisms of Campea's comments, which it should be noted, are in the context of a very strange interview where Pattinson's sense of humor is, to put it bluntly, extremely weird, seem rooted in some very restricting notions of what Batman, and indeed men in cinema, should and must aspire to be like. I want to say hail to Tommy. He's tossing out rookies and myself, our channel. Tommy is the hardest working mod on YouTube that I've seen.
Yeah, YouTube should be paying him for the amount of attention he brings to YouTube in a way.
For real. And one of these days, Tommy ought to write like a fucking phone book of YouTube channels that you should check out, because I'm sure he's got his finger on the pulse of all of them.
I feel like if anything, he should make a good some type of small percentage at least for modding everybody's channels, like from each one. That's a job, man. It's a job.
So YouTube, throw Tommy a bone, and if you're in Tommy's preferred gender, send him some nudes.
monetize moderators. Yes.
yes, of course. So here we have Bruce Wayne and the fucking new Batmobile, and either a muffler or some three-way traffic light. Is that what that is?
It looks like a traffic light.
Yeah, and then the Ninja Turtles live down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the masculine. Go ahead.
Is the Batmobile? Is there supposed to be some type of appeal to the Batmobile? Like, I never really got why that's.
Well, so it's
necessary.
ribbed for her pleasure. You can see down the central block. But I think what I read was that this is supposed to be some sort of synthesis between the '89 Batmobile and what we saw in the '60s in that show. So the Tumbler looked like something that you would go and kill people in Afghanistan in. And this looks more like a car that probably has guns in it.
Right.
Yeah. And so the masculine ideal of action cinema has typically leaned towards a larger frame jam-packed with clearly defined muscles. Batman himself has gotten noticeably bulkier over the decades, moving away from the leanness of Michael Keaton to the CrossFit heavy grit of Ben Affleck. Is Ben Affleck bulky?
I think that was more his suit that made him look bulky. In general, I don't think he's got that broad of shoulders.
Yeah, I was more distracted by his voice synthesizer than anything else. I guess I don't know if somebody listening has been on the set of the Batfleck. Let us know if he smells like creatine and a protein shake.
Yeah, but I mean, I will agree that Batman doesn't need to be super buff, because that actually kind of takes it away a little bit. Like, especially if he's fighting somebody like Bane. Just from what I can tell, it seems like he's supposed to be really overpowered, and then Bruce is supposed to be, using his intelligence with his fighting techniques to beat him. But I actually don't know, because I actually don't know how they're the fights are supposed to go. I would just assume based on their characteristics, but I don't know.
Well, so by the time viewers got to Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and the DCEU and superhero cinema at large had seemingly agreed upon a Rob Liefeld level of musculature as the heroic prime. It didn't seem to matter that such a physique made very little sense for someone who was supposed to be a fast-moving which is echoing your point, Rook.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, too. He doesn't, Pattinson doesn't look like he'd be that fast. Like, I'm a big dude, and I'd have a feeling that I could possibly outrun him. Like, maybe not in speed, but in endurance. Like, I feel like he'd give out.
Yeah.
Like, he looked kind of lazy. I don't know. It's like like I said, it's about putting in some type of effort. Do some sit-ups, in the morning and before bed. Do some push-ups. Maybe do some jumping jacks. Maybe do some type of wall sits or squats or something. Curl a few dumbbells, and call it a day. You don't got to do everything. Eat a little healthy, and that's all it would take. Just look like you can be athletic. Like Tom Cruise. Christian Bale. Sorry.
Yeah.
Christian Bale looked athletic enough to be Batman. Like, he didn't look like he was super buff, that he could, punch you a hole in your face, but he looked like he could possibly outrun you. He looked like he can use his weight to tackle you down. The point was that he learned super ninja stuff or something, right? At like Shangri-La or wherever he is. He got taught by ninjas or something, right? Like, isn't that Batman's thing? He got taught fighting styles by Ra's al Ghul. He's like a ninja.
So the League of Shadows.
Right, League of Shadows. That's what I was thinking of. Like, he's using fighting techniques, and he's athletic enough to use the techniques. It's not about overall strength with him, but it's like I can't really see Patterson. Does he know any choreography to do moves too? Like, that goes hand in hand with working out. It's not just to get buff; it's to get in shape so that you can do techniques and fighting styles.
Well, yeah, I think most of us are familiar with Pattinson's work from the Twilight series of movies, which unfortunately was marketed towards 13-year-old girls. And, so we don't got a sense of his physical prowess or his fighting prowess, but we got that sense that, well, he can play a detached, brooding person.
He can brood. He can brood. He's got the brooding down.
He's got that down. So I don't know, like, how much does physique mean in these movies? I mean, if we go back to Michael Keaton, it seems like a lot of his physique was built into that bulletproof armor that he was wearing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's also, I think he had more of the intimidation look on his face.
Yeah.
Back then, like, he may not have been physically super strong, but he looked like it. He looked like you don't want to, even if he's not stronger than you, he looked like he could kill you. So it's like,
well, then the other thing is that he also understood his director. So him and I forget his name.
Don't look at me. I have no idea who directed it.
Tommy probably knows, and he's going to kick my ass for saying this. Tim Burton. Thank you, Psychic Tommy. Tim Burton and him had worked on Beetlejuice together, and they already knew each other as director and actor. So when it came time to do Batman movies, they already had a working relationship. So they were able to get better performances and all that stuff out of each other. Well, okay. The next kind of weird thing that I want to look at here is this thing where Ruby Rose, she quit the CW's Batwoman after one season.
She quit or get fired?
Well, I don't know. Like, so I'm going to kind of mush through this article. I mean, like, look at her. She's
got that red hair. Goddamn.
Yeah. Don't look at her boobs or you're a toxic male. Ruby has quit. She says, I made the very difficult decision to not return to Batman. This is not a decision I made lightly. As cast and crew, and I'm beyond appreciative to the creative people. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like she decided not to do it. Now I've seen other news articles where it was suggested that it might have been out of a negative fan reaction. I don't necessarily think that. I don't think that she would have received like harassment.
Were they fans too?
Well, I don't know, but it's also that thing where if you're in a show and everybody suddenly goes, "Oh my god, I don't want to fucking watch that." What would be your impetus for continuing to produce it? Unless she really believed in it, but I don't know. If somebody walked in, well, if somebody walked in with a briefcase full of money and said, "We want Jessica to be Batwoman," and it was like, yeah, it was one season, and, you know.
Yeah, she'd do it in a heartbeat.
She would, wouldn't she? Because she's that kind of a, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's free money basically to act a little. Like, why not?
So she had to have surgery last year. Here she is getting a buck with a super woman.
Hell yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that. See, I know that she had a lot of backlash from people who said she wasn't lesbo enough, and it's like, were you even fans to begin with to have that complaint? They just know that they just wanted a gayer character or something. I don't know.
Well, and that's one of the stranger spins on this story. So her decision to leave is not related to the injury. Warner Brothers is very happy to have her. The studio and the network are fully committed to Batwoman's second season and long-term future, and we, along with the show's talented creative team, look forward to sharing its new direction.
Nude direction?
Oh, I thought it said, yeah. Nude? Including the nude erection?
Nude direction? New direction. New
yes.
direction. Okay.
They're looking forward to sharing their new direction, including the cast of a new lead actress and a member of LGBTQ. They forgot the plus, so fuck all the pluses. Community in the coming months. Wow. Okay. So I don't know if she's not gay enough, they're gonna find somebody who's even like they're gonna find It's Pat, and that might be before your time, Rook. But It's Pat was a skit on SNL. Like,
no, I'm aware of the. Oh, I don't know, Pat.
Okay,
am I a man or a woman? You'll never know.
I'm glad. Because I never know, like, when you're going to have a rookie moment.
I actually, but I'm a huge fan of SNL, at least. And I may not have seen all the early ones, but I'm aware of quite a few going back. But yeah, no, I agree. And it's like, when they say not lesbian enough, it's like, so let's look at the lesbian chart and see what needs to be qualified. Scissor with a woman 2 times a day? Is that the amount they need? Or, is once a week not enough? Or just, what's the qualification? What's the numbers?
But then here again, we get a show that hires LGBTQ plus and is marketed towards that same audience, but then having a backlash because she's not enough. Now, what does that mean? So they're going to turn her orientation into something physical, which is what all this shit is supposed to be against.
Yeah.
So
and this is part of a longer show. This is a spin-off in the Arrowverse universe.
Yeah.
And there's too many of those as it is, so it's like and what's funny too, there's a lot of lesbians in the Arrowverse shows. Like, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of gays, a lot of gays, even a couple gay dudes, like a lot of gayness.
So apparently she was in Orange is Not Black. She got the not being gay enough. She came out as 12 and had 5 years. So we have an actress in this sense having to justify her own fucking personal life. And it's not unlike another Rose that we know, right? Where we're trying to say, as the fandom menace, it's not the actress's personal life qualifications that determine whether or not she should get a role or be able to act in a role. It's can she act, and can they portray her, give her enough quality writing to let her shine in that role.
Yeah, I agree. I think she'd play a great villain. I think she sucks as a hero, but she'd play a great villain.
Well, that's probably what they'll do. They'll like race swap the Riddler or something.
I could see her being a Poison Ivy or something, you know? I think Poison Ivy's part lesbian or something. I don't know.
She might be bi. I think Catwoman might be bi. I would like her to be bi.
Something like that. Yeah, well, they at least whenever you look their images up, there's lots of gay stuff that comes up for them anyway. So making out with Harley Quinn or something. So that's not that there's nothing wrong with that. Just trying to look for an innocent picture, and then oh no.
Yeah. Well, we want to pop back to the chat. We actually have According to Christy joining us. Thank you, According to Christy.
What's up, Christy?
Yeah, we want to hail the toxic female channel.
Yeah, some Christy creams. Christy creams.
Yeah, along with our good friend Mary. So they are cohorts. They are partners in crime. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Apparently, Tommy's theory is that Skynet has taken complete control.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That'd be better turn of events, I think.
I think so too. It's a weird and wacky time we live in. I'd like to think that the world is getting better, but sometimes you just can't really.
Yeah. True that.
Okay, so my friend Rookie, we're actually going to get into the main topic of tonight. I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a warm-up room. So I hope you've stretched out and you've had enough time to get the blood circulating. All that kind of stuff.
I just got off another stream, so
oh no shit,
circulating at all. Nope.
Okay. Who are you streaming with?
It was me and Flip were did a collective stream again.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you guys check that out. I'm sure the replay is going to be available on both their channels. Flipped Out is a friend of the channel. Rookie is a friend of the channel. Matter of fact, man, how's everything going? Like, where are you at in your project now?
Thanks for asking, man. It's going pretty good. The C virus has taken quite a toll on quite a few people that were involved in it. So I've had to, rearrange and recast some people and change some script stuff up a little bit here and there and tighten it up, which it's unfortunate. I feel like what I wanted in the beginning, I won't be able to get the way I wanted, but I'm still doing whatever I can with what I can. And I think it'll still be a good project overall. Like I'm still working on it and editing it now. I did a lot of filming today, and it's going good. I edited yours and Shellback's scene together, so that's flowing nice. Worked great. You guys filmed some good stuff out in the woods, so those will be some great shots. His death will be remembered.
I think so too. It was kind of surreal shooting that. For some reason I thought like we'd have to try to do some camera tomfoolery to make shit work, but I have faith in your editing skills, and he did give quite the poignant death scene. Are you trying to release these episodes close together, or are you just going to do them as you produce them? What's your
my plan, which I don't know if I should ever plan like this ever again, but my plan was to release them weekly. So it'd be the first one would release Friday, July 3rd, and then they'd release each week after that, each Friday, or like at the same time. So there'd be the first 4 episodes back to back, but then between episode 4 and 5 there's like a 1 extra week in either July or August. There's like a 5th week, so I would skip a week, give people time to catch up, because episode 4 is a 1-hour special. It's like a longer episode than the others, and give people time to catch up on the series if they didn't get there yet, and then start premiering 5, 6, 7, 8, and that will be it. That will be all of it.
Well, that's some cool shit, man. So be sure to check out Rookie Critic. our buddy Tommy posted his contact info earlier up there. And Tommy's working overtime, you guys. Hail Tommy, the best moderator in the biz,
Hail.
promoting all the good people because guinea pigs are relentless. The only thing that stops us is bad internet. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I feel like that's a little bit of the ancient one in there with the guinea pigs.
A little bit with some Green Arrow. So go ahead and raise whatever you're imbibing to Tommy and his relentless promotion of good people.
Indeed.
Hail Tommy. Okay, so Rookie, I've been paying attention to the shape of the stories and the sort of things that come to attention to the fandom menace. And I noticed a pattern when I listened to several channels. First of all, I listened to the Inquisition, starring Overlord Doomcock, Hail Doomcock, and Nerdrotic, Gary Nerdrotic, where they were reporting on one of the writers of Doctor Who saying that, well, don't take it so seriously. Canon doesn't matter. And then I was also listening to people like Mary Mayhem that we mentioned earlier. And there was a writer in the Star Wars Lucasfilm writing group who said, don't take it seriously. Canon doesn't matter. So I have two separate articles from two different sci-fi realms that are kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah, it seems like the Hollywood bubble type of stuff going on.
It does. So I want to kind of gloss over them and then we'll get into some opinions here. So this is the Star Wars take because it basically kind of introduces shit, but the next article by the Doctor Who guy totally lays it out on the line here. So Star Wars story group writer Matt Martin, Star Wars canon is, quote, all fake anyway. Presented to us by John F. Trent on the 11th of May, 2020. Here we got poor Han Solo. Not quite impaled, but he's on his way there.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Martin recently declared that fans can pick and choose what is canon in Star Wars because it's all fake anyway. As reported by Star Wars is Dumb, Hail at Chewbacca. Martin's most recent comments came after a fan asked him to clarify his previous comments regarding Star Wars canon. He wrote, says Raphael, I'm of the mind that you can consider anything you want canon if it makes you happy. Okay. I think we all kind of do that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, it still works, but there are some contradictions with other storytelling if you really care. Okay. Earlier in April, Martin shared an article from IO9 which declared that our fascination with canon is killing the way that we value stories. That's quite a story. What's your take on that, Rook?
Well, my opinion on canon is a little different, I suppose, but it's more like because Dragon Ball is what I use as a reference because there's many different iterations of it that people would say is the definitive version, and it's like, oh, if Akira Toriyama, the creator, dipped his hand in anything, that means that is officially canon. But if somebody else that works for him does it, then it's not. Or if there's filler on the anime, or if there's whatever in the anime that's not from the manga or whatever, but there's huge contradictions. But you could pretty much pick and choose now because he makes mistakes himself, and he retcons stuff sometimes and goes back and does things. So with Star Wars, like the EU, I feel like the EU is a form of canon you can kind of pick and choose. It's not the legit continuity. But if you're talking about between A New Hope and Empire, canon matters. If you're talking about between A New Hope and the prequels or anything, canon all matters here because this is a linear story. This is a story being told going in a direction. And if it's like, oh, the Star Destroyers look the way they do, but then in the next movie they're like rectangles, that's continuity error. It's like, no. So like even like with Luke, the way he is in the sequel trilogy compared to where he was at the end of Return of the Jedi, I think there is ways you can get him to that point, but it's like the way that they gave the reason for him breaking off his character to be a little hermit doesn't satisfy. That kind of breaks his own canon, because there had to be more damage there. Something else would have to have happened to send him there. And they're like, well, no, we can do what we want. And if you think about it, Immortal, like I'm trying to be a director someday, and you learn that sometimes having the infinite amount of ideas and money makes a crappy product. If you have lots of restrictions and you have a limited budget, like a limited things you can do, you could end up making the best thing ever with it, because you're using everything that you have. You're forced to try harder. You're forced to push up instead of just go, oh, well, we got anything, screw it. So I think it's lazy for people to just ignore continuity of things. It's just kind of like, well, we just want to be able to imagine whenever we want. If I want Luke to be baking pancakes with his toes on a Friday night, like, it's like, what is this? It's just like, no, can you put a little more effort here into trying to do what the characters would probably do? Like, I don't know.
Well, and then what if it was the other way around, where we find ourselves in a type of hell because we know the characters to be different than the way that they're presenting them to us as the audience? Do you think there's some comfort to be taken in headcanon, where it's like, yeah, the first like 2-3 movies were cool, and then like I like this book, but this thing is shit, so I'm just gonna push everything else aside and focus on this?
Yes, actually, I think that's actually fine. I feel like that's where you can kind of pick and choose, because it's like, oh, there's the OT trilogy, which a lot of people will say is what they choose to, they don't count what the production companies made to be part of it. Like, if you're going to go to the nitty gritty, yes, it is technically part of it, sure. But you don't have to consider that into your story, like the way that you see it. But that's like two different kind of points. Personally, it's like that's subjective, or what actually it is. Like one is referring to how you feel about it. The other one is what is legitimately there, even if it sucks or not. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, then Tommy's here to remind us that, yes, at one point in time, the EU is still considered canon under Lucas. And at that big sales meeting where Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh, we're going to treat this reverently and with great care, as if it were Mickey's balls itself. George Lucas said, well, we have thousands of pages of EU material and comic books and other forms of Star Wars entertainment, video games, what have you. So there should be plenty of content for years to come. Not so anymore, according to KK, who apparently found no sort of instruction manual and nothing to propel the franchise further.
Well, I mean, the reason why is because I assume it has to do something with royalties, or with not being able to market or make as much money without making their own original characters. So if they're using ideas and all these other things borrowed from everywhere else, maybe they can make some type of profit or benefit with it, but they want to ultimately make their own, like ripping from it and its universe and ideas, and shift them to be their own thing, to make their own money, is kind of how I'm seeing how they do it. Like she knowing full well that there's a plethora of different books that she could check out, or different media she could check out for stories, but doesn't want to have to be restricted to them. They think that it's limiting and that they can't do anything original when there's these stories, and I disagree completely. You can still do plenty, just knowing what other stories have been made, honestly.
Well, yeah, she number one doesn't want to cite or pay creators who have come up with the ideas that they are retconning, but she also has her own vision moving forward with what she wants Star Wars to be.
Yeah, which seems to be no one watching it. Seems to be the goal because again, I think it's fine that they I think the way that she words things is what's killing her, and same with all these actors, directors. It's how they're wording everything. They're like, we just want to make sure there's more women watching, but it's like they say it and then they also degrade men at the same time, going, "That's too many boys in here," and it's like, no, it's like what you mean to say is, hey, it'd be nice if there were more female fans, if there were more girls that like this too, but that's like just saying it as I just did, that's kind of harmless, right? It's like, yeah, that'd be cool if there were some more that took interest in it, but you can't win everything. You can't force people to like things they don't like. If they wanted to attempt to do that, I would think first thing would be casting somebody like Jason Momoa playing bounty hunter type character. I think that'd be a step. And sorry that it has to be sexual-ish, but it's like it's not. Well, it's just that he's attractive to them. So,
but he has too masculine a physique
and guys would think
masculine.
Yeah, but it's like guys would think he's cool and girls would think he's hot, and people would buy the toy and play him in the game. Like there's all this stuff with just adding one actor to the story. So it's like you'd be getting what you want, but just maybe not in the way they want. They just want people to just absorb anyway, but without putting extra thought into it. But they could do lots of things to get audiences of all kinds, all ages, all genders and races and everything. But they're not going to do it.
Well, and I think this is the salient point of James Whitbrook of Lucasfilm Story Group. Before we move on into a parallel thought in a separate universe, this craving for canon above all else is a toxic attitude, not just to the way that we talk about pieces of media from a critical perspective, but in fan circles as well. And then we have Kylo eyeball fucking his dad. This is like moments before his murder.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not really seeing their point here.
Well, and we're gonna allow this Doctor Who guy to kind of lay it on the line because he did quite the lengthy essay. Oh, we know this guy. It's probably his fault. Canonicity and Doctor Who by Paul Cornell. Now, do you watch Doctor Who, Rookie, or is this like
that's other realm for me? I've not watched it.
Yeah, so it's for most people, Doctor Who is like the dork kind of dork show. So you can like Star Trek, you can like Star Wars, but if you like Doctor Who, you're a fucking dork.
The Star Wars and Star Trek guys would go, "You're a fucking nerd."
Yeah,
you like Doctor Who.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rook, I'm a fucking nerd. I liked Doctor Who, but the same kind of shit that's happening in Star Wars and Star Trek happens in Doctor Who for the same similar reasons. And this guy, Paul Cornell, he wrote one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago, but then like turned around. I mean, and you can see this is like 2007. He turned around and basically erased his relevance from the current Doctor Who canon. So it's interesting. This is in the past. This is not 2020, but his takes on certain things is going to be very revelatory. We want to thank, according to Christy, for lurking. Tommy,
Yep.
Yes, lurking is fun.
I'm gonna get Christy. I'm gonna try to get Christy Creams rolling soon. Christy Creams.
We should. We should definitely.
She should make that into a shirt on her channel. They get the Christy Cream shirt or something.
She should, or buy a bib to,
Yeah, a bib. Krispy Kreme bib. That'd be funny.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to assume that most people either are marginally familiar with Doctor Who, or they have heard of him at some point. But
Yeah.
Doctor Who, for those who don't know, he, well, I guess it's a gender bending alien at this point. This is a race of beings that exist at all points in space and time, and they can travel any point in space and time. They love the planet Earth, especially the Doctor. So we're constantly saved from threats that we don't even know is happening because the Doctor's out there. He doesn't die when he gets close to the point of death. He actually regenerates. So that means his old body cancels out, it dissolves into energy, and it reforms into a new body and a new identity and a new emotional perspective and all that stuff. So it's allowed, the mechanics of the lore allow the show to continue on with completely different actors and completely different eras for whatever suits the show at the time, except this past regeneration is what they call it. They've engaged in identity politics. And this guy, well, we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward. So he talks about some Doctor Who lore, but then he kind of draws some contrasts and parallels between some stuff that we're familiar with. Comics fans have the shared universes of DC and Marvel, and when something's not part of that canon, they're told so, and that such books are labeled Elseworlds or What Ifs. Star Wars and Star Trek fans have official edicts about such matters from people employed to decide on them. You know, if you're a Star Trek fan, that the animated series, in a hugely unfair way, considering some of the stuff that did get in, is definitely uncanonical. In these cases, canon is not about authority, but an authority that is interested in legislating about it. Okay, now again, this author is trying to press the point that canon doesn't matter. And this is his justification for saying so. He's like, just because Star Trek's there and that's canon and the cartoon's there, it's not necessarily canon, but you can watch it. Okay?
Well, it's like, I think that you can make things that are not canon and they could still be good. Like a lot of people liked the Ghostbusters cartoon apparently, and they loved that. So, I mean, you can, but that's actually kind of the point. It's like, but that's the thing. If you're to like have a linear path, or you're going to have your stories here, it's like, okay, you have to have some type of continuity. But if you wanted to make one that isn't part of the continuity, go for it. But don't be like, okay, this is a part of it. Like if you had a guy named Joe and you're in your movie right now, and he's got he wields swords, and he's like a samurai or something. And then in the sequel or 2 movies down, he's a gun wielding, mouth talker, like gangster type, like named Gina. Like he'd be like, well, but does canon, like, would this guy say, oh, what does it matter? You're restricting me. Canon doesn't matter or something. You're focusing too hard. It's like, no, you're literally, this guy's supposed to go through a journey, and this is how he turns up. Like, you changed him completely with no like logical reasons as to how he ended up at that point. Like there's got to be a path. I mean, and that's just as an audience. I mean, sometimes I'll give directors this or something, or writers this. Like, you can have something be confusing like that, but then you can change it in the future by like adding some type of element that makes that make sense, and then maybe that can actually add to the story to make it cool. But it really depends on how well you do it. And if you give people crap for it, tell them, oh, you're just being a blank and you're being stupid, then you're not helping. You're not helping keep your customers, your audience.
Definitely. I got a jet flying over, so hang on just a second.
They're going to get you. It's the spies.
Yeah. Let's just look at Christy lurking. We're going to look at her as she's lurking at us.
Indeed.
We're looking at you lurking. Okay, so the idea that one could happily write, as many Star Trek and Star Wars writers happily write, official works that are definitely non-canonical, and everyone in that business accepts that, feels like poison to us Who fans. Okay, now he is daring to speak for all Doctor Who fans, even in 2007. Non-canonical is a term of abuse in Who circles. Wow. And this
No.
this is fully 13 years before 19 years before shit went down on Doctor Who.
Right.
Now, in Doctor Who, they made a precedent where Time Lords can gender swap, which isn't a big deal. Okay, if you can come back as a girl or come back as a guy, depending on what your fucking oversoul wants to experience, I don't give a shit. That's up to you and your inner fucking god. But what they're trying to do is they gender swapped him and made it a holier than thou, all men are bad kind of thing. And they made the
But they're kind of dissing the past, going like, "Oh, those were worse. I'm better," type of a thing.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. The point where the show again is unwatchable, and it's kind of like you've heard about Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so it's along those lines, or like Rey Skywalker, where it's like, okay, we're gonna send a woman in to steal all this guy's stuff and his identity, except the guy sucks and the woman can do it better. Just because of the sheer fact that she's a woman, nothing else.
Right, and then she never learns how to do anything. She's able to kind of do it without any problems.
Yeah, and then it turns into one of those things where the audience is like, oh, okay, it's a new regeneration, and okay, where's the story? Okay, where's the story? I'm gonna watch something else. And the last like 3 or 4 episodes of the season are just like abysmal, and nobody wants to fucking watch it. Same thing in Star Trek, the new Star Trek, and the new Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's a writer, and he goes on for quite a while. But I found it funny that he wanted to compare questions of canon to Star Wars and Star Trek. And in a way, it kind of shows you that he's trying to justify the relevance of Doctor Who through more popular platforms, independent fucking IPCs, right? Oh, yeah. Shit. We got Midnight's Edge, Tommy. Hail, Tom. Or excuse me. Yeah. Tom from Midnight's Edge, not Tommy. We got Tom and Tommy. I'm surrounded by Toms. What the fuck? Well,
what's up, Tom boy?
Yeah.
You boys are misbehaving, aren't you? Yes, sir. Yes, we are. Bad boys.
Well, Tom's a Doctor Who loving motherfucker too, from what I understand. And then Star Wars and Star Trek at the same time.
Hell yeah.
But it's this idea that just canon doesn't matter anymore, according to these creatives, both from Star Wars and Doctor Who. And if canon doesn't matter anymore, well, then what the fuck do we care about it?
Well, I feel like it kind of goes with I can't call everything. I don't like to use the phrase canon for everything all the time, like how with Marvel, for example, or DC Comics. Like I'm not a comic reader, but I imagine to say the words canon in those terms would be like, going down a pool of insanity because of who did what, when, where, how, with which characters at what time. Like that'd be too tough. There's a lot of pick your poisons, essentially. But I don't know. I feel like I was saying earlier, that when you have restrictions to make some stories, what I mean by restrictions is like in Star Wars, for example, they use examples on how the Force works and how it can be used, and you can make some new abilities from it. You know, honestly, the Force healing and a lot of the stuff they used in Rise of Skywalker isn't bad. It's just they used it through her, and there's like no lead up to it. There's nothing about it. It's just, here we go. It's like, oh, okay, I guess it's that easy to just do these new cool Force powers. But it's like, you could do your own original things in your Star Wars movie and be as creative as you can without, but you have to use lightsabers in it at some point, or use established weapons. You can make new ones too, but You can't just go. No, they always used wooden swords instead of laser swords. That's the real weapon of the Jedi. It's like, no, you can't just change it like that.
Well, the value of canon is that with each new twist of the story, you get an explanation for why things are like they are. So you mentioned the Batleth of Star Trek, and that was like a lock of Kales's hair dipped into a volcano in a mythological hero sort of sense. The same way it's like where we took a bolt of lightning and forged it into a weapon that could kill the dragon or whatever the fuck. But these people are saying like, well, that doesn't matter because we just want to make it up, and you guys are gonna take the spoonful of shit on your high chair. And when we say that tastes like shit, they're like, well, that's not meant for you anyway. It's meant for somebody else.
Yeah, it's like it's a good point, Immoral. I don't really know what they expect with an audience. I would ask them the question, why do you want to make this into a movie? Or why do you want to make this movie with these characters? Like, in a way, I wish that a lot of movies that have been made were just made their own way, like the Jumanji sequels. Those did not need to be Jumanji at all. Those could have just been a video game movie XY, and it'd be just as fine, but they put it into the Jumanji universe where they didn't need to. I feel like, with the Star Trek, I assume I'm not a huge Star Trek person at all. I haven't watched an episode ever.
We'll forgive you.
I assume there's like 800 episodes prior to Discovery and stuff.
Well, yeah, and it's also one of those things like Star Wars. Like you can look at the main movies and be like, that's canon, but then there's all this auxiliary shit. With Star Trek, we had the original series, we had The Next Generation, we had Voyager, we had Deep Space Nine, and then Star Trek Enterprise. And that was all before J.J. Abrams got his little mitts on it. So from that point on, that's where we have some discongruities. Now, there was also feature films, which some of them were better than others, but for the most part, we exist in that same sort of equilibrium as Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like the whole connecting thread between all the Star Treks is the ships. Most of the ships are kind of the same. Like, they're not drastically changing the history of that whole universe, are they?
No, like they worked on a basic principle. It's like, okay, so we developed a warp drive, so every ship has to have a warp drive, and it's based on antimatter, so it all has to work on that. And then like you have some freedom to play with the bodies of the ship, but it's all basically the same twinness.
Right. So that's what I mean. That's what I was trying to say with Star Wars earlier, and like with anything else, is that you have kind of your base of what can be in your thing, and then you have the freedom to make what you want. Like you can be very creative with the limitations of having to not break the Force rules to just go, I can just fly now. Like it's like, well, no, you can't just rocket boot, Force. I'm floating all over now. Like maybe you could float above the air, hover. That's one thing. It's concentration. That's a little different, but you're not just like Dragon Ball Z flying around like nothing. That'd be a big stretch. I feel like you could lead up to it, but that would have to really, you'd have to really sell it to us that you're leading up to this and that it works and it's not as goofy. And because then when you tell stories afterward, you have to keep that in mind. Like that's now kind of a part of it. That's an option. Because then you'd ask, why don't they do it? Why don't they do that? Well, you don't have to worry about that. This is my own idea. Well, no, you're making a continuation of something that came before. So look at what was there and go forward from there. That's
honestly one of the things that bothered me about Star Wars, that idea of hyperspace fuel. We need some sort of something to make us run out of gas so that Rose Tico and Finn can go on their casino planet Exodus sojourn. It's just one of those things, like it exists solely for plot fuel, but it has no sort of bearings on what in my opinion, a spacefaring civilization should be capable of. We never asked ourselves, how much space fuel does it take to run a Death Star?
Right, that was never made to be important. The
Oh, just fucking
actual
looked.
the threat of it was something, is
Yeah,
important details, and that's kind of thing too. You can leave things open ended to not have a definitive answer, but you can't just. That's some of the thing too. You can, if you leave room for things to be interpreted. Sometimes I think that's fine. Then you don't have to have the definitive answer. I'm betting Lucas didn't have every answer for everything when he made Star Wars. Like, what ship did so and so fly to who blah? Like, what was Bosk's ship like? What's his family? Like,
exactly.
what's his history? I don't know. He was a cool dude for a bounty hunter, real quick, to stand there. Like, and then maybe later that's like somebody else added to it, and he's like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, you can leave room to be improved on later.
Well, sure. And in one of those weird sort of attempts to bring canon together, George Lucas infamously invented the midi-chlorians because Luke said in Return of the Jedi, the Force is strong in my family. My father has it, I have it, and my sister has it. Excuse me. So how come? Why is that? Well, there must be some sort of blood quantum. Let's invent a new microscopic form of life that talks.
I mean, I guess that's fine, but like again, the midichlorian thing doesn't bug me too bad, but it's kind of like, I would imagine it's kind of like with bloodlines, like with kings and queens, like it's implied that they're royalty, they're also royalty. They were master swordsmen, so we're gonna pass that type of teachings on to the next one, kind of a thing. It's kind of what I would think that the Force was with that, like like a royal bloodline kind of, but whatever.
Sure. And in other heroes' journeys, I could see where like you might have to go through like a period of physical rarefication to begin to perceive the Force, but is it restricted to bloodlines the same way that, I don't know, European houses of royalty?
Right. I kind of assumed that the reason why most humans or other species don't partake in trying to become a Jedi or Sith or learn about the Force is because of the amount of dedication that it would take to be able to master it. The dedication to the meditations or to the applications in general would be so difficult, and that's why the Jedi would pretty much give up their lives to learn it.
Well, you'd almost have to be willing to be the ascetic, the old man on the mountain at a very young age to even, because Luke at 19, he's too old.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but I don't know. They kind of changed the way that it works. Well, I mean, as far as with the prequels, they changed the justification for how it works later. But
well, then what is it?
I'd say in a fine way, though. It still works. Then it's just the more details you add to it, the more questions you ask.
Is there a difference to you, Rook, between playing fast and loose with canon? Maybe an idea sticks, maybe it doesn't, versus saying, well, canon doesn't fucking matter at all because.
Right. I'd say it's stupid to say that it doesn't matter at all. I'd say you should actually, that's how you should make. I don't understand why are you making the story then? Like, why are you gonna, if you did not come up with the idea of this franchise that you are going to make movies for, why do you want to make them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the point is that it's from that universe. Like, I don't want to make a Lord of the Rings movie where I take no elements from Lord of the Rings and just take things from, I don't know, Street Gangsters 12. Like, I don't know what if that's anything, but it's like, you don't want to make it a completely different film, right? Like, you want Lord of the Rings to feel like Lord of the Rings. You want Star Wars to feel like Star Wars. That's where canon kind of comes in. And as far as story goes, like story placements, if you have something that directly contradicts what is established in the one form, I mean, it's kind of stupid to just go, oh, no, I'm skipping it. To me, that's lazy. It's like, no, use that and add, apply that to your story. What can you build off from it? How can you go from point A to point B? What else can you do? Don't just give up and go, I'm just going to start over and do what I want. Be like, no, take the effort to think about how this works within your story too.
Well, then, and finally, I want to ask, from which psychological and emotional space would writers of Star Wars and Doctor Who go to their fans publicly and say canon just doesn't matter?
Because they're lazy, they don't have ideas, they want to just do what they want without anybody disliking it. Like they want to be able to make what they want and have everybody praise it or not say anything at all. And that's it. They can't take it when people say anything bad. They'll blame them and go, "You're just paying attention to canon too much," or something. It's like, no, it's not entirely the case, but your lazy ass didn't come up with a story that fits with what was already established. So that's kind of on you. Like if I was gonna have to write a Marvel movie or something, as much as I love directing, I would not want to do it because I don't know enough about the universes to really make one that'd be worth it, that'd be good. Like I don't know enough about the universe, and so it wouldn't be as good because it wouldn't feel like it's in that universe if I made it. Like I don't want to be a KK in Marvel.
Well, no, but it also seems like these people, these creative, and I'm saying this in air quotes, creative elements, they don't know how to take a constructive criticism. So they just, nanny boo boo, you don't agree with me, so I'm just going to call you a name and put you in this corner. And yay, until we can't make any money because of Voldemort virus,
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Right on. Well, with that, you guys, I want to say one last hail to the chat. Of course, the hardest working mod, Tommy, who says, check out Rookie Critic. Here's his Twitter. His YouTube can be found the same way. Here's me, Immortal Coil. My name's spelled all fucky, so if you're here, it's because you want to be here. I want to say hail to the chat. We have, according to Christy, they're having good fun poking at each other. And then Tom Midnight's Edge, fucking Herald of the High Council. I appreciate you guys coming out to check me out. We're going to have much more fun in the future. I'm planning for Wednesdays to be sort of like catching up with the news and offering my synthesis for whatever news stories is put forward by the fandom in general. And then go ahead, Rookie. Let us know what else you're working on, and then we'll bow out and say our farewells.
Yeah, thanks, Immortal. I think it's a good idea to have these kind of little streams. You can call it like a pop culture recharge or something, to get people going in the week. But yeah, I'm the Rookie Critic, working on the Rookies Legends project right now. Most of my content has stopped on my channel for now. I'm trying to do little character streams as a bunch of my different 20 Jeff characters to entertain a little bit on the channel until the release, which is coming pretty soon, less than a month and a half away for the release of episode 1 of the Rookies Legends. And that's going to be the gods of cinema are arriving. They're going to be unleashed. I'm going to have a whole little gang of recruits to try to train. It's going to be a whole mess. There's going to be over 20 Jeffs that come into the play. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Madness.
Right on. Well, I want to send out my appreciation for everyone coming out. Once again, one last time, go ahead and raise your mug of grog. Go ahead and chug down. And I say salud, stay savage, and we will talk to you later.